Go ahead and close your eyes if you can. Relax your forehead. Unclench your jaw. And go ahead and take a nice deep breath in through your nose. All the way to the top, and exhale out your mouth, letting go. We're going to take another deep breath in together, in through your nose, really filling up your diaphragm and your lungs. Holding at the top just for a moment. And exhale out the mouth, letting go. Go ahead and open up your eyes if you closed them. Welcome back to another episode of Mindful Moves with me, your host, Daniela Jensch. This is a topic very near and dear to my heart because I actually just started doing it this week. And what better way to share something that I'm so deep and entwined with? To preface this episode, we are not going to speak about setting goals. As you might have gathered by the title, I have completely shifted away from setting goals for the year. Number one, just because I don't feel that they gave me the intention that I was looking for meaningful change. And it was always something out there, something that I hadn't reached yet. And so I've developed this new method. And I've been working with it this week, and it's been so wonderful to do. Basically, this episode is going to outline a little bit about why the intentional change, and most importantly, I'm going to give you the step-by-steps on how to do this for yourself. So I hope that everything that you are calling in this year can just be laid out in a way that feels good to you. I think that a lot of us are at this point, maybe you clicked on this episode because you know that feeling, it's the beginning of the year. We have this, I want to call it almost an artificial pressure, because apparently in January, that's when you're supposed to have already started all your goals. You're supposed to have already run all the 10Ks you set out to do. You've already, started your meal plan, and you've started being financially literate, and you've read 100 books. And I'm here to say that I do not subscribe to this anymore. My official start of the year starts in Feb. I don't know why we have this pressure in Jan, especially because I don't know about you guys, but a lot of us have very busy Decembers. Some of us work because it's high season. Some of us have a lot of family obligations, wonderful things, but your social calendar might be really full. And so that kind of seeps into January. And I just don't feel it's the time for a fresh start. If you're following along, you are more than welcome to know that February is a good month to start with any meaningful change. And it's not to say that you're going to overhaul your life. I never recommend that. I'm all about small, meaningful, intentional changes. Then this episode is definitely for you. We're going to put aside that pressure of January, and this is supposed to be fun. This is why I'm so excited to make this episode, because I've been dealing with this method this week, and it's been so fun because I've been tapping into me and what it is that I align with and what feels good to me and what shifts feel more balanced. So it's going to be really fun. It's going to be a good time. And why this change from goal setting to the PPP method? So goal setting, as much as anyone would know me, they would know that I love, setting goals and setting intentions. But why I've moved away from that method is more so because I felt that a goal was always outside of myself and it was always over there, and I had to get to that goal. And then after I started achieving certain goals, I realized I get there and I just don't feel very fulfilled. And so I've shifted the method, and we're going to dive straight into the PPP method. It's very easy to remember. The first P stands for pillars, and that I'll dive into now. The second P is purpose, and then the last one is personal. Pillars, purpose, personal. What they're going to outline is, number one, let's start with the first P, which is pillars. Now, I know that a lot of goal setting or, yearly plans involve setting lots of goals and action plans and all of this. And whilst some of that seeps into this, the core messaging here is that it's going to be the foundation. And when you look at a house, for example, from the outside, you don't see the foundations. You don't see the pillars holding up this beautiful structure. You usually see the outside, the ready-made product. We are working on the core foundations, the pillars. And those are the things that do not waver. Those things cannot be changed. You can always renovate the house and you can paint on the outside, or you can add another layer onto the house. You can have a third story. You can add more furniture, you can take away some furniture, but the foundations and the pillars need to be so solid and they do not falter. They are strong and they are aligned, and you can weather any storms. The pillars will hold that structure up. And so these pillars, now you understand the messaging behind how important and detrimental they are to your entire foundation. Let's break them down into the two categories, which is purpose and personal. So we're going to start with purpose. And I know that a lot of the times, on many retreats I've been on, people actually come and they are wanting to know what their purpose in life is. And this word should not scare you. I don't want it to scare you. I want it to excite you, because we all have something deep down that we want to bring to life. Whether it's a personal project, whether it's nurturing a hobby more, whether it's, really starting that business that you've always wanted to do, maybe it's getting into a meaningful relationship, whatever you feel your purpose is, this is where it's going to come to life. Now, with both sections, in purpose, we are not going to do more than 5. So I've done 3. I'm going to give you an example of my 3. And I would recommend sticking between 3 and 5 because we have a purpose section and a personal section. And so we want to really keep it succinct and we don't want to overload with too much at once. So for me, in my purpose field, I have 3. I have my book, I have the podcast and the community here, and I have retreats and my offerings. So those 3 are things that I already have in my life, but I would like to place higher priority on them because that really, when I think about them, it really excites me. When I think about those 3, it's where I want to pour my energy into, and I don't want it to ever falter. I want those to be the cause of my work that I do, the purpose. Now, remember, as I said, you do not need to know what your purpose is to do this section. You could genuinely say that you have always wanted to bake more. Maybe you just have a feeling you want to go somewhere. And I know that this might be a bit tricky for analytical people. We are not going to think too hard about this. This is going to be a feeling-based exercise. You're going to feel into which areas that little voice inside your head. I don't think I have to explain it to you. The one that kind of pulls you, the one that says, I'd love to lean into this direction. You might think that feels like learning a new topic, maybe pivoting in your career. Maybe it means you want to be a mom or a dad. There's so many options, and if you're ever confused about these, please feel free to reach out. But it's the thing that calls and nags you, the thing that pulls you towards it. And I'm almost 99% sure we all have it. A key aspect here. Your purpose does not equal success achievement. Your purpose is a fulfilling feeling. What would make you feel fulfilled? So those were my 3, and they would make me feel fulfilled if I poured extra energy into them this year and just had them at the top of my focus. So we'll really take you just a few minutes. All I can say tip wise is make sure to feel into them. Don't overanalyze it. You don't need to write down your 3 immediately. What I did before this exercise started, I just brain dumped everything in my head, every area in my life, just free writing it. I didn't even plan it or, write sections. Just wrote everything on my mind that I thought I would love to do this year, or I'd love to shift this year, or there needs more balance here. So you can brain dump all of that. And from that, you can turn the messiness into a little bit more structure. So now that you have your pillars in purpose, you're going to write those 3 down. And then we're going to move over to personal. The personal pillars. So for me, my 3 were yoga. I have always had a yoga practice in my life. But with working more remotely and online and working, with the podcast, with editing, I'm a lot more at my desk. And so for me, it is a top priority to nurture my practice more and to dive deep into that. So mine is yoga. The other one is reading 2 books a month. You can even just keep it at reading more or just reading, full stop. And mine is that because I love literature, I love books, and I just feel like I used to read a lot more. And it brought me such joy and calm. And so that's my second one. And as you can see, I'm always attaching a why it feels aligned to me. I think that's really important too. My third one is to learn something new. For me, it's going to be the piano. I've always wanted to play an instrument. I used to play a bit of guitar, but I'm really keen to learn the piano. It's been a dream of mine forever, and I don't see why just because it's later in life I shouldn't do it. That's the third one, is to learn something new. So with these 3, now that you can kind of distinguish, it can be anything for you in your personal life. It can be really small, it could be really big, it could be whatever little category it could be. You get to have the freedom of range with that. Don't feel like you need to stick to this exact plan. This is a rough idea and you do what feels good. But the key aspect here is you have your personal and you have your purpose-driven pillars. You can just write these down, but remember, you're going to need to maybe have 10 minutes extra just to dive into the plan. I can't say that one of my pillars of my purpose is my book. And even though it's published and it's in and around Namibia, I can't just write, I want the book to be in South Africa and everywhere in the world and have no plan. I need to break it down. And it doesn't need to be a perfect plan. It just needs to be a rough idea of where my head thinks it could work. So I would break that down further. The same applies for your personal pillars. So if I'm planning to learn how to play the piano, what's the breakdown? Because so often it's so fun to come up with the idea, oh, I'm going to change my life and I'm going to learn how to play the piano, but then you have no action plan. So for me, that would look like deciding between, learning through YouTube for free. Am I going to invest into it and invest into a teacher? Do I go once a week? Do I go twice a week? Same with yoga. Am I going to keep it at a home practice? Or for me personally, I feel more inspired when I go and I attend a yoga class. So how often would that be? Would that be once a month? Would that be once a week? That's all stuff that I need to sit with and think with myself. A key aspect here is please don't let any blockages stop you. If you can't afford to go to, let's say your goal is to gym or work out more, if you cannot afford to go and get a very expensive gym membership, please don't think that that means you can't achieve that goal. You need to be creative and find a solution. There is always a solution for everything that you put down. This is something, a mindset you need to go into it knowing. And just because it might not look like someone else's life, that does not mean you're not on the journey. So I really want that to be at the preface. You don't need to go buy a walking pad to get your 10,000 steps. You can make it happen in one way or another. You can. Don't let having to buy something stop you from doing it, because you can. Then you're going to break down each of these. It doesn't have to be a deep dive, but I need you to almost break it down into, if you can, monthly and weekly, and even if it's a rough idea. This is the key behind these pillars. That's why we're not doing so many, is because you need to focus more on the details of the breakdown. And as you might have noticed, none of these pillars say anything negative. Yes, reading my book might help with attention span and less scrolling, but my pillar is not, I want to stop scrolling on my phone, because we're not going to be focusing on the negative. We're going to be focusing on filling the gaps of our life with things that fulfill us and feel aligned, because you only have X amount of time in the day. If you have a full-time job, if you're a parent to kids, if you are busy through the day doing whatever you're doing, you only have these small other gaps for other activities. Now, if you usually would fill that gap with scrolling on your phone, don't focus on that you shouldn't do that. Focus on what you could be doing instead. It's an opportunity, it's a window for you to shift into. And so I like to focus on the positive because it makes me feel better. When I think about scrolling on my phone and having a shortened attention span, it makes me feel guilty when I do it. And we don't want that. We want to focus on feeling good, even when we read half a page of a book. How am I going to help myself? I'll put my book next to my bed and I'll read one page a night until I start upping it. And these little action plans will help me get there, but I'm not going to focus on the negative. I'm going to focus on where I can positively bring something new, bring something that I used to do back. This is really important to this whole PPP method, is that you need to really focus on the positive and what you're inviting in. And so now that you have the groundwork, it's quite a simple exercise. I'd love for you all to do it. If you have any questions, please come and ask me. A key learning here for me that has shifted and why I wanted to share this method is pillars are really going to be the foundation of who you are, and people might not see them. They probably won't see them. They have to be so important to you. When you do your list, I need you to look at all 6, let's say you write down 6 or 3 for each category. I need you to look at them, and if nobody ever knew that you were doing these things, would you be happy? Would you feel aligned? Because we are not doing performance-based pillars. We are doing authentic, aligned foundations, because this is what's going to set you up. And this is what I love about pillars, is that they are immediately part of you. You are not waiting to achieve a goal out there to feel fulfilled. You are living that life. You are living in that pillar. It's not separate from you. You are that already. You have that foundation. And so don't delay it. Start living like that as soon as possible. What can you do immediately? What can you change and shift right now? Do you need to do all of these at once? Definitely not. In fact, I often advise just take it step by step, do what you can now. But I think having clarity and clearness on what aligns with you and what you'd like to step into from this moment on and live and embody for the rest of the year, this is the perfect little exercise you can do. So remember, there's no pressure. You are doing this because it's fun. You're doing this because it brings you joy. We want to invite more whimsy and joy back into our lives, and that means not being so serious. A pillar is something that just feels right and aligned with you, and you start embodying. It's not outside of you, it's always within you. And remember that the light that you are constantly seeking outside of yourself is just waiting to be acknowledged within. Have a beautiful day. See you next week. Bye.